Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Rising Sign Astrology. Today, we're diving into the world of Venus, specifically as it relates to who you will marry. The astrology in your birth chart can offer some very powerful clues, and it all starts with Venus. In your birth chart, she isn't just the planet of love. It reveals how you experience your relationships, the kind of partner that you're drawn to, and even where you might meet them. The house that Venus is in points to the area of life where love and connection tend to show up. Whether it's through your career, when you travel, through friendships, or other landscapes. It can hint at the setting or circumstances where your relationship story will begin. Now, the sign that Venus is in, on the other hand, speaks to your love language. It's your romantic style, and ultimately the qualities that attract you and what you crave in a partner. So it really starts to shape and define who it is that you're going to fall for, even if it doesn't reveal when or how it happens. Now, in marriage and spouse predictions, Venus can symbolize the kind of person you're likely to marry, or at least the type of relationship that you deeply desire. So I will be coming out with a deep dive video for Venus 101 in the future as part of my 101 series across the planets. But this video specifically was requested multiple times, so I wanted to carve out time for it in advance of that broader Venus 101 video. So let's take a closer look at what Venus is telling you about love, attraction, as well as your future spouse. Let's start with a short overview, because Venus shows us how you give as well as receive love. It is your romantic desires, your aesthetic preferences, and the emotional values that shape your relationships. It also speaks to what brings you pleasure, comfort, and a sense of beauty in life. In a woman's chart, Venus can describe how she expresses her femininity, her sensuality, her charm, and even her love language, right? Her affection style. But regardless of gender, Venus always tells us what you're naturally drawn to and how you express love in return. Now, when it comes to marriage and long-term partnerships, the seventh house is the main player, but Venus adds a ton of important context. The house Venus is in shows where love tends to show up in your life. Whether you meet somebody in the workplace, within a social circle, or elsewhere. And as I mentioned, the sign of Venus really describes how you love and the kind of energy and person you're attracted to and the kind of person that you end up with. So, for example, if you have Venus in Gemini in the 10th house, you might meet a partner through your career or public life, and you're likely attracted to witty, curious, communicative types, right? And conversations could be the glue that holds your relationship together. Your spouse could even influence your public image or status. So that's just one example. But in short, when we break it down, Venus by house, listen through the lens of where and how your love partner is going to show up. And when you listen Venus by sign, it indicates the kind of person you're drawn to, how you express love, and the characteristics that your marriage partner will likely have. Now, it's important to point out that in Vedic astrology, Jupiter is traditionally seen as the significator of a woman's husband or future marriage partner. It represents the qualities that she may seek in a spouse, right? Wisdom, guidance, support, even spiritual or moral strength. But by looking at the condition, the placement, aspects of Jupiter, in a female's chart, you can gain insights into her potential partner's nature and marriage experience overall. So that can additionally, flavor the chart and the outcome. But for today, we are focusing on Venus as the planet that reveals how love plays out in your life, right? So let's dive into what Venus is revealing about you. Okay, let's begin with Venus placements by house, and then we'll get into Venus placements by sign. So when Venus lands in your first house, the house of self-identity, the self, the physical body, it's like having a seal of approval stamped across your forehead in terms of love. You tend to radiate charm and look very approachable. Even if you're not conventionally attractive, people still gravitate towards you because naturally your energy feels soft, warm, and inviting with this placement. It gives you a certain magnetism. And yes, it can literally make you more physically appealing than others. People with Venus in the first house tend to be very striking. And you may not even realize the effect that you have is just part of your presence. Now, in terms of marriage and long-term partnerships, this placement suggests that your partner is likely drawn to your personality, your style, and really just your vibe right off the bat. You don't usually need to chase love, it often finds you. And relationships may begin easily for you, and sometimes more than once. There's a desire to be loved for who you are, not what you do or what you provide. That said, Venus in the first can sometimes mean you project the relationship desires outwardly, which means you might attract partners who reflect something that you haven't fully acknowledged in yourself yet. And you're likely drawn to people who mirror you, right? Whether that be your values around beauty, harmony, or balance in life. Your partner can be someone that's very well-mannered, into fashion, into art, or just, someone that is active and within their social connections. In other cases, they may simply treat you very well and care about how they make you feel. This is a classic Venus theme. And with Venus in the first house, you would tend to appreciate these kind gestures or compliments or someone who puts real effort into the romance department. It's not that you're superficial, it's just that you understand that attraction and connection often starts on a sensory level, right? Like you need to feel it. As for where you might meet them, it's often places where you're simply being yourself and not trying too hard, right? You could be out shopping, walking your dog, working out at the gym, attending a social concert or a social gathering or a concert, just living your everyday life because this is the first house. It's you. You take your body everywhere. The magic is in the fact that you exude a kind of I am open to connection energy wherever you go. And Venus in the first can also bring relationships into your life where you're focused on your own appearance or you're focused on your own self-care in some way, right? The new outfit, the new haircut, the new fitness routine, like those are the things that might just lead to more than a confidence boost. They could lead to you meeting the one. Now, in marriage, this Venus placement wants a partner who makes you feel seen and appreciated. You want to feel adored. You want someone who not only likes you, but likes being around you. And physical chemistry really matters, as well as shared values and also mutual admiration within the relationships. Again, Venus in the first house, it's your physical body, it's who you are. So being accepted for who you are and having that physical connection is extremely important to people that have this placement. So if you've ever felt like your relationships just happen, then this placement is likely why. The main lesson with Venus here, though, is learning not to settle just because love is easy to find. You're the type of person that's going to have no shortage of suitors, and you need to find somebody that really values the real you, not just the image that they're drawn into at first glance, because again, Venus first house people are very striking. So if that resonated or helped, please drop a comment below. Okay, Venus in the second house. So with this placement, love isn't just about the spark of romance. It's about substance. The second house is naturally ruled by Taurus, so those themes come to the surface here. You aren't someone that's looking for a whirlwind romance that crashes and burns. You're looking for someone who stays and someone that can go the distance. Someone who aligns with your values, someone that can add to your life in the material sense or emotionally, and someone who shows their love through their reliability. This is the house of money, possessions, and self-worth. So Venus here weaves romance into what you value most. Things like security, comfort, loyalty, and even physical pleasure. You would be naturally drawn to partners who are dependable, who are steady, maybe even a little traditional in their approach to relationships. Some may say boring, but you would like this. You want someone who follows through, someone who shows up and is going to stick around. Grand romantic gestures may be nice, but what really gets your attention is consistency. Your ideal partner may be financially stable, or at the very least, financially responsible. He or she might even come from a background that emphasizes long-term planning or practical living. You don't need someone rich, but you do need someone who makes you feel safe and like you're the priority. Now, when it comes to where you might meet your spouse, look to Venusian second house themes, places that are related to finance, food, beauty, or comfort. That could mean meeting them at the bank or a farmer's market or the cozy coffee shop on the corner. Even at work, if you're involved in industries that are related to beauty or food or art or material goods. You could also meet through shared values or ideals, like both volunteering for a cause you care about and then you meet, or attending some kind of event that you both have a passion for, and then you run into them because they appreciate the same kind of lifestyle that you do. But the theme here is simple, right? Love tends to show up in places where you feel grounded and you feel like your authentic self. And in marriage, this placement often brings a very strong desire for material and emotional security. So you want to build something with your partner, whether that's a home, a business, or a family, right? You show your love through touch and affection and gifts and making them food, or just acts of loyalty, right? And you really do expect the same in return. So a shared bank account may not sound romantic to everybody, but to you, it's bigger than that. It's a sign of unity and trust and loyalty. So it means something. You also value physical intimacy, right? And not just in the sexual sense, but in little ways, right? It could be holding hands, cuddling, the comfort of sharing space together. But the biggest lesson with Venus in the second is to avoid confusing security with love. It's easy to fall for someone who checks all the boxes financially or logistically, but a stable situation isn't the same thing as a true nourishing connection. And you have to decipher between the two. The best partner for you will not only respect your values, but also inspire you to deepen them. They're going to make you feel like you are worth loving exactly as you are. Nothing to prove, no performance, there's no pretense, just someone who meets you with the same level of devotion that you bring to the table. And that's your ideal love. So if that resonated with you, please drop a comment below. Okay, Venus in the third house. So with Venus in your third house, love tends to start with the mind, right? For you, mental chemistry is big. That's the true aphrodisiac. You're going to be drawn to people you can talk to endlessly, and you want someone that's clever and articulate, someone that's curious and just really good at making the day-to-day mundane aspects of life feel interesting. So words matter here. How they speak to you, the tone that they use, how funny they are, right? The jokes that they crack, the stories they tell. All of this is what's going to draw you in. In fact, you could probably fall for someone's mind long before you realize that you're falling for them at all or on a physical level. And you're likely to meet your future partner in some kind of everyday setting, right? On your commute, through a neighbor, your local neighborhood, right? At your local coffee shop, or even through a sibling, And the third house rules short distance travel, local community, communication, learning. So that means that any marriage worthy connection that you consider would probably come from one of those mundane places, a conference, social media, even a writing workshop, something third house themed. And what starts off casual can suddenly turn romantic when you realize that they just get you and that they can keep up with your thoughts. You're going to find that very attractive. Now, your ideal partner is probably talkative or at least very engaging within conversation. And you want someone that is mentally agile and intelligent and curious about life, and probably a bit funny or even sarcastic, because playful banter, that witty back and forth, or even deep conversations, those are the things that get you going from a love and romance perspective. And in a relationship, you value open communication and this constant exchange of ideas. You're not someone that's into drama or like this heavy emotional intensity for its own sake and confusing that with love. You really want to understand the other and have them understand you, have that mutual understanding, and just keep that energy flowing. Like that's what you love. And marriage with Venus in the third tends to thrive when communication is prioritized. If communication were to shut down, it would drastically affect the marriage. But you and your spouse probably have a lot of side projects that you're working on together, or like trips that you take, or a lot of shared hobbies, and that would keep the communication going. Because the relationship could revolve around like these exchanging of ideas and learning new things and staying active and involved in your local community. The relationship might also involve like frequent movement or relocation, right? Like a lot of short travels or a lifestyle that's somewhat mobile or flexible in nature. Only you can know what that means, but again, travel throughout the third house in your local environment. But ultimately, the lesson with Venus in the third is to avoid getting stuck in the friend zone dynamics, right? Or mistaking mental stimulation for emotional depth. Just because someone is easy to talk to, that doesn't mean that they're capable of true intimacy. So you have to look for a partner who's able to have both and that can speak your language and check that box, but also shows up, and is present with their heart and love in a consistent manner. But when you find someone that can talk and walk beside you through life, then you found your true match. So that's Venus in the third. If this was helpful or resonated, please drop a comment below and let me know. Moving on to Venus in the fourth house. So with this placement, love isn't as much of a show or like a hot and fiery romance as much as it is a shelter or a place of safety, right? You don't just want romance. You yearn for emotional security. And you're drawn to people who feel familiar, who offer you warmth, who seem like they could fit into your world in a long-term perspective. This is the house that governs home and roots, ancestry, and your emotional foundation. So Venus here puts a very strong emphasis on comfort and shared values around family and belonging. Love for you starts to blossom when you feel deeply safe with the other. And your future spouse is likely someone who makes you feel emotionally grounded or who shares similar ideas about what home should look like. They're likely nurturing, more traditional, more family orientated, and in some cases, your partner may even resemble a parental figure that you've had, either physically or more likely in temperament, right? Are they caring or dependable or maybe a little protective in the same way that, one of your parents were? That's very common. Now, you may also be drawn to people who just have strong family ties or who express their affection through fourth house themes like caretaking or emotional attentiveness or helping you create a home life that can feel like a real sanctuary. Now, as for where you might meet this person, I mean, the answer is obvious, right? Close to home. That could be literal. That could be your neighborhood, like your childhood area that you grew up in, or even inside your home, right? Through family, friends, or home-based business, or maybe even online platforms, social media that you access from your home. So it could be symbolic, places where you feel emotionally safe or connected to your roots, like family events, spiritual or cultural gatherings, or even while dealing with home-related matters like moving, real estate, or renovation. But you may even just meet them through family members, especially on your mother, either through your mother or on the maternal side. And in marriage, you want to build a life that feels private, that feels nurturing and emotionally bonded. Domestic harmony is a very big deal to you. Fighting and chaos at the home just cannot stand. It would throw your entire system off. And you likely imagine a life where love is expressed through the home, right? Like shared meals, cozy nights staying in, or just, supporting each other through the highs and lows that, life inevitably throws at us. You're the kind of person who wants a partner to grow old with, not just to date for fun. And on a Friday night, you're probably more likely to want to stay home and watch a movie with a bottle of wine with your partner than to go out to the club or to some concert or something of that sort. Because with Venus here, beauty may be found in your physical space too, and you may want to, indulge in that, right? Your home could be very artfully decorated or designed to feel serene, loving, and inviting, not only for you, but for your partnership. The ultimate lesson with Venus in the fourth house is not to idealize your home life to the point where you overlook emotional red flags just to feel secure. Sometimes the craving for comfort can lead you into partnerships that feel safe but lack passion or lack mutual growth opportunities. The best partner for you is going to offer both, right? A stable emotional home as well as the maturity to grow with you. So when you find someone who can address your emotional needs as well as someone who values tradition and generally wants to build something lasting with you together, then you've likely found your match. If that was helpful or resonated, please drop a comment below. Okay, Venus in the fifth house. This is a fun one. So if you have Venus in your fifth house, then love for you is likely not subtle, right? It shows up through the performance, right? It's flowers, fireworks, a flair for the dramatic. This is the house naturally ruled by Leo, so those themes will be abundant. It's naturally the house of romance and joy and creativity, self-expression. So Venus here makes you crave the kind of connection that just makes you feel alive. You don't fall in love quietly. Your relationships tend to be colorful, very emotionally expressive, even emotionally charged, and even a little theatrical at times, right? Think grand gestures or public displays that have a lot of heart. So this would be the placement that may propose or get proposed to, in front of a large crowd, putting on that show. And when it comes to your marriage partner, you're naturally drawn to people who are fun, who are charismatic, very creative, very expressive. You want someone who brings out your playful side and is not afraid to show their love for you openly. Your future spouse might be the type who plans elaborate date nights or, leaves little notes for you around the house or surprises you just because. They may also have artistic leanings. They're likely someone who has a zest for life or even enjoys being the center of attention. So there's often a strong romantic spark. And if it's not there, then the relationship would likely start to feel flat to you or the other. As for where you might meet them, I would look in places that are tied to all of those fifth house themes. So fun, creativity, performance. That could mean a party, a concert, an art class, or game night, even a festival, or even through something that involves kids or children, because the fifth house does rule children as well. You might meet while engaging in a hobby that you love, or attending a play, or just doing something spontaneous. Sometimes you can meet this person, as you're going through a period of just sort of casual, lighthearted dating, not necessarily looking for anything serious, only to discover that, one person is really standing out from the rest and they stick. Now, in marriage, you're going to feel the need to be seen, to be adored, and the relationship would need to feel exciting. Like a flat, functional relationship is just not going to cut it for you. You want affection, you want flirtation, you want to have those like inside jokes with your partner, and you need a partner who is going to keep that romantic flame alive, even years down the road. And creativity might be a shared passion in this relationship, right? You might build something together, whether that's art or an entrepreneurial business, even a family, since, the fifth house is children. But there's often a strong desire to create joy in the life that you share. And if you do have children, your spouse might be especially involved in their life or just deeply, deeply loving towards them. But the main lesson with Venus in the fifth is not to confuse the excitement with long-term compatibility. It's very easy to get swept up in the rush of new love and to overlook yellow or even red flags because it just feels so good. Because once that initial infatuation or the magic fades, you're going to need a partner who can meet you in real life, in the real world, right? They're going to need to be emotionally mature, be able to commit, and have that ability to grow with you in life. So the right spouse for you is going to keep that passion alive, but should also help ground it into something meaningful, not just play. And when you find someone who can love you in that way, but still stand beside you and, tackle the ordinary tasks of the day with you, then you found someone that, is the match that you're looking for. If that resonated, please drop a comment below. Okay, Venus in the sixth house. So this is much different than the house we just discussed, right? Venus in the sixth house is where love tends to like slide in through the side door, quietly, practically, and wrapped in just real life daily routines and moments. It's a natural house of Virgo, so what else would you expect, right? This isn't the kind of placement that thrives on like grand performances or declarations. It's not that movie star like Hollywood cinematic romance. You're going to be drawn to someone that shows up consistently and that doesn't bring chaos into your life. And you often express love through your helpfulness or your support, or just showing up when it counts. You're likely the type who does little things for the people that you care about. Think unpacking lunches or packing lunches, offering advice, running errands, or simply making someone's life easier in those little ways. And in return, you value a partner who's going to show up and be reliable, attentive to your needs, and just grounded. You don't need the flair of, Venus fifth house here. In fact, you wouldn't want it. And your marriage partner is likely someone that you meet in the realm of work, health, wellness, or just everyday life. It could be a coworker or someone you meet at the job or someone that you meet at the gym. Any context that involves your daily routines. So, love may start off quietly or subtly, or even professionally. And what begins as just teamwork or assistance or maybe a shared goal can slowly blossom into something much deeper. I would say don't underestimate a relationship that just seems to start off, quote, too normal, because Venus in the sixth really does find love in the everyday routine and realness of life. And you're going to be drawn to partners who are humble, helpful, and dependable. You tend to admire people who are thoughtful and competent and very service orientated, all of those Virgoan traits. You may also find yourself attracted to people who value health and wellness, or clean lifestyle, or maybe they're just very organized in their lifestyle. Any type of loud or erratic personality is going to exhaust you. You don't need a show off. You don't want one. You want someone that's going to roll up their sleeves and help you clean up after dinner, or remember to bring you tea when you're sick, and that supports you quietly but consistently. And in marriage, you're at your best when love is part of your daily routine or rhythm of life. You want to feel like your partner is in the trenches with you, not watching from the sidelines. You may even express love through acts of service, right? Doing things for your partner, solving their problems, creating practical support systems that can make their life easier. You value the kind of relationship that works in the real world. Coordinating shared schedules, shared duties. I'm thinking like coordinating back and forth, dropping off your children to school, or, picking up the pet from daycare, or, just some form of shared effort. The main challenge, though, with Venus in the sixth is learning not to confuse helpfulness with worthiness. You don't need to fix or serve or prove your usefulness in order to deserve love. Likewise, be mindful of settling into relationships that feel like they're based on duty rather than joy. Because the best partner for you is going to be someone that values all of that effort that you put in, but can also remind you that you're also lovable and you're perfect the way you are, even if you're not checking off boxes on a to-do list. So when you find someone who meets you in life's little details but can also love you throughout all of them as well, then you've likely found a true partner that's going to be right for you. If that resonated, please drop a comment. Okay, Venus in the seventh house. So you were practically born for partnership. This is the house that naturally rules marriage, commitment, and one-on-one relationships. So when Venus lands here, it's putting a big spotlight on love as a central life theme for you. Relationships are not just something that you dabble in. They're often a defining part of your identity and life path. You don't just like the idea of partnership. You thrive in it. You need it. You're the type of person that's jumping from relationship to relationship, not somebody that's just casually dating. And you likely won't feel fully settled until you find someone that you can build that kind of connection with. With Venus in the seventh, you tend to be drawn to people who are attractive, sociable, gracious, as well as emotionally balanced. This is the natural house of Libra, right? So there's usually an air of refinement or mutual respect that exists within your romantic connections. Your future spouse is likely someone who mirrors you in some way, whether that's lifestyle, values, or personality. And you may attract people who are diplomatic, artistic, and relationship orientated themselves. It's not uncommon for this placement to bring a spouse into the relationship who is very physically attractive or has, a public facing charm to them. Harmony, though, is the key here. because you ultimately crave a partner who doesn't just, match your heart and the love, but also fits very cleanly into the world that you've built for yourself. Now, as for where you might meet your spouse, the possibilities often involve some formal or relational settings. So think networking events or weddings, even consultations or professional partnerships, any setting where relationships are central. And this includes therapy, right? Or business collaborations, even, a mutual friend trying to set you up. These are all very, very typical ways that people with Venus in the seventh house meet their partner. But this placement also brings the potential for marriage through more traditional routes as well, or through situations where, that natural social grace that you would have with Venus in the seventh and your charm are just on full display. That would pull somebody into you. Now, in marriage, you're going to be someone that aims for balance and deep connection in your partnership. You want to be with someone who complements you, someone that can stand beside you with mutual respect, not someone who dominates or fades into the background. And you'll likely seek a peaceful or even like harmonious dynamic within your relationships and go out of your way to avoid conflict. You're going to be the type of person that prioritizes your partner's needs, maybe even over your own, to keep the relationship functioning smoothly. And often, it's not unlikely that your partner doesn't even notice how much you're doing for them behind the scenes. So the lesson with Venus in the seventh house is learning to not lose yourself in the relationship. With such a strong drive towards partnership, it's easy to become too focused on what the other person wants or needs. You may bend over backwards to help keep the peace, even at the expense of yourself or your own authenticity. And the best partner for you is someone who values that balance that you bring as much as you do. Someone who doesn't just want a partner, but wants you in all the uniqueness that you bring. So when you find someone that treats you as an equal and values, that partnership and that harmony without expecting perfection from you, then, you found a relationship that's going to be worth keeping for you. Just be careful not to lose yourself in the relationship because, like I said, you can do so much without your partner realizing it that it could breed resentment if it's not, healthily expressed. So if that resonated, please drop a comment below. Moving on to Venus in the 8th house. So this is where it gets spicy, right? If you have Venus in your 8th house, then it's probably safe to say love is never casual. Even if you've dabbled in, flings or just dated around a little bit, true connection for you needs to be deep and emotionally charged, even all-consuming in some ways. Remember, this is the house of transformation, the house of shared resources, sex, death, rebirth. So when Venus takes residence here, it's going to give your relationship a real magnetic and deep undercurrent. You do not do surface level attraction. You want the kind of love that is going to break you open, put you back together, and change the way you see yourself and the world around you. You want to almost own your partner. Not physically, obviously, but you want an almost merging, a oneness with the other. So your marriage partner is likely someone who brings intensity and mystery, or even some level or form of emotional depth to the table. They could be someone that's, very financially powerful or on top of their finances. They would be very private, potentially emotionally complex, or just someone with a past that has significantly shaped who they are. And there would likely be a very strong sexual connection between the two of you. But it would go beyond just the physical. You're looking for someone that you can trust with your deepest truths and secrets. And that can range from your fears to your trauma to your shadow side. And your ideal partner isn't afraid to just jump headfirst into all that uncomfortable stuff. They may have been through their own personal transformations. So that shared experience of growth could be a part of what ultimately bonds the two of you together. Now, in terms of where you might meet them, I would think of settings where things aren't what they seem on the surface. And that sounds odd, but it could include situations that involve joint finances or inheritances, counseling, anywhere there's deep emotional discussions taking place, or even moments of personal crisis or life transition, right? You could meet someone through work tied to psychology or healing or finance in some way, or even meet them during a chapter of your life where you're more vulnerable than normal, where, a superficial connection at that time is just not going to cut it anymore. So sometimes love tends to find you right after something ends, because this is the house ruled by transformation. So don't be surprised if the right partner shows up right after a big breakup or a loss that you went through or just some significant turning point in your life. Now, in marriage, you crave emotional fusion. Like I alluded to before, you want to know your partner inside and out. And you want to be known the same way from them. You may keep your own feelings guarded at first, but once you're in to that relationship, you go all in. And to you, loyalty matters more than anything. You're not just sharing a house or responsibilities or sharing a bank account. You look at a partnership like this as sharing your soul. And this placement often brings financial or emotional enmeshment with a partner, whether that's pooling resources or taking on their debt, that's very common, or just supporting each other through periods of psychological growth for each of you. And you wouldn't mind the intensity as long as you feel that you're both equally committed to it. That's a key. Now, the challenge with Venus in the 8th is not to equate passion or intensity with love. A magnetic pull or deep sexual chemistry doesn't always mean long-term compatibility. You may find yourself drawn to complicated or even unavailable people simply because the emotions at play feel bigger or feel deeper, or they're harder to pin down for you. The lesson here is to seek transformation without self-destruction. The best partner for you is someone who meets you in the deep end, but can also help you rise out of it. Someone who, is going to invite in that truth and some level of healing or safety for you, not just the intensity of the 8th house. So when you find a partner who is going to support you and honor the vulnerability that you bring, as well as evolve with you, then that starts to become something that you're more meant for. So if that was helpful or resonated, please drop a comment below. Okay, Venus in the 9th house. So here, love isn't just a feeling, it's a journey. And you're not looking for a partner who checks boxes or fits into your life as is. You want someone who expands you, someone who opens your mind or challenges your worldview, or maybe even takes you places you've never been before. And that could be physically, but also mentally and spiritually, right? You can't go on vacation every week. This is the house of travel and philosophy and religion and higher education. So Venus here adds a craving for meaning as well as adventure, but most importantly, freedom. And that's freedom within your love. You don't just want to build a life, you want to build a life that's worth exploring together. And if you have Venus in the 9th, your marriage partner is likely someone who's from a different background than you, whether that's a different ethnicity, a different culture, or comes from a different belief system. They're going to be someone who has a different worldview or grew up with a different worldview, and on some level, that's going to fascinate you. They can be a traveler or a teacher or, someone that has a very open mind. They'd be a student of life. And you're going to be attracted to people that have a vision, someone that has big ideas or can have philosophical conversations, and enjoys and has a passion for discovering new things. And in love, you probably fall the hardest when someone challenges your assumptions in order to invite you to grow, rather than just validating what you already know. You're going to enjoy that friction. As for where you might meet this person, this is one of the more straightforward placements, right? Look to places tied to exploration, learning, movement. Think travel, whether foreign or domestic. Places of higher education, so college campuses, workshops, lectures, as well as, spiritual or religious settings. There's a strong possibility that your spouse is either from a different part of the world or you meet them while you're traveling to a different part of the world or moving or, undergoing some kind of personal evolution that takes you to somewhere else. So this placement can also bring long distance relationships that eventually evolve into something serious. And in marriage, you're going to need space, as well as a shared sense of purpose. Again, you're someone that values freedom. So a routine or overly conventional relationship likely won't hold your interest for long. You're the kind of person who wants to explore new ideas with your partner or travel together, engage in meaningful conversations and debates, and ultimately support each other's big dreams. But you don't want to be pinned down at the same time. So you can share a love of learning or even teaching, and a relationship could involve, long-term travel or relocation or blending of cultures. The main lesson, though, with Venus in the ninth is learning to balance your idealism with being present. So it's easy to romanticize a partner who represents something new or foreign or aspirational, but then only discover that as the day-to-day reality sets in, it doesn't quite live up to the dream. And you could also struggle with restlessness in love, right? You need your freedom. So there's oftentimes a fear of commitment, that making that type of commitment is going to box you in some way. But the right person for you is not going to be someone that would want to restrict your freedom. In fact, they'd want to expand it. They'd be understanding of it. So when you find somebody that's willing to behave in that manner, as well as explore life with you, then you found someone that's likely your true match, and is not going to hold you back. So if that was helpful or resonated, let me know. Okay, Venus in the 10th house. So this is like the secretary placement, I guess. Just kidding. When Venus sits in the 10th house, so love isn't just personal, but it's going to be public in some way. Because the 10th house is the house of your public image. It's your career, your reputation, your status, as well as your long-term legacy. So Venus here links your relationship life with your professional and or public life in some way. You can find that your love story plays out more visible than most, whether that's through marrying someone very well known or being very admired as a couple, or simply having your relationship tied to your identity in the world. Either way, love and ambition are often intertwined in some way with Venus in the 10th house. And your marriage partner is likely someone who is established, respected, and very career driven. And you'd be drawn to partners who carry a certain level of maturity or responsibility, even social clout. They might work in a leadership role or have a strong public presence or be known for their accomplishments. And you tend to admire people who are composed, competent, and goal-orientated. the type of people that just have their life together, right? This placement would also suggest that your partner can enhance your public image, or vice versa. You could literally rise in status because of who you marry, whether socially, professionally, or financially. And when it comes to where you might meet them, the 10th house points to settings tied to work or prestige or public activity. That could mean meeting through your career or at a networking event or during a business collaboration, even through a shared professional contact. You might also meet someone that's in a position of authority, or you might be the authority figure within the relationship. It really depends, but it's all too common for this placement to bring relationships that start with some form of mentorship or hierarchical dynamic to it, right? So think boss employee, teacher student, etc. And while that power dynamic can involve, you know, or can evolve into mutual respect, there is things to be aware of and cautious of with this placement. Now, in marriage, you're going to be someone that craves a relationship that feels solid, successful, and on some level purpose driven, right? You're going to want a partner that brings substance to the table, not just feelings, but follow through. And you'll likely take your commitment very seriously and want your relationship to reflect your values in a very visible way, in a way that you could be proud of. So your ideal marriage is one where you can support each other's goals, but ultimately build something tangible, whether that's a home, a business, a family, a legacy. And even if you're not like a career minded or obsessed individual, you're going to want a relationship that feels like it's moving towards something or is admired or, respected in the public eye in some way. Something that feels built to last, that's going to leave a legacy. But as I alluded to, there is a lesson with Venus in the 10th, and that is not to confuse status with intimacy. Because it's very easy to fall for someone based on their title, their appearance in the world, how much money they make, or, just their perceived success in life. And it can lead to overlooking whether or not you actually feel seen in the relationship or safe, or you feel like there's even an emotional connection. This placement can sometimes attract relationships that look great on the outside, but feel hollow on the inside. And the ideal partner for you is going to be someone that values your ambition, but also cares about your well-being. You're going to need someone that is going to support your public life without making your private life feel disorientating or like a lot of work. So when you find someone that wants to build with you, not just for you or watch you build or just benefit from your shine, then that is the relationship that's going to be worth, the long haul. Now, if that resonated, please drop a comment below and let me know. Okay, Venus in the 11th house. So with Venus here, love often starts as a friendship. You're not easily swept away by just like fleeting attractions. You're going to be drawn to people who feel like they belong to your bigger picture, because this is the house of social networks and community, long-term goals, and future vision. So when Venus shows up here, it blends your romantic life with your broader hopes and ideals. You want a partner who's not only your lover, but also your teammate, your co-conspirator, they're probably your favorite person to go brainstorm ideas with. And you're going to be attracted to people who are open-minded, socially conscious, or just different in some way, right? This is the house naturally ruled by Aquarius. So you might go for the unconventional type, right? The person who stands out from the crowd or really just thinks outside of the box, or shares your, unique future-orientated mindset, right? That's an area that the two of you could bond over. And your marriage partner could be someone who values things like equality and friendship and shared purpose more than like the traditional romantic theatrics. So they can be highly involved in things like community, activism, even tech. And you're going to want someone that sees you not just for who you are, but who you're working to become. Because the 11th house is future orientation. So, as for where you might meet this person, think anywhere that's involved with friendship, group activity, or social networking. Any areas where those things are in play. And that could mean online, especially through social media or dating apps. It could also mean through a group event or through a group or mutual friend or a group gathering that is tied to some shared cause or interest. Think nonprofit or, like a tech forum or activist group, something of that sort. And you may also meet your future spouse through casual friend circles first, right? There's a sense of, yeah, we were friends for a while and then it became more with this placement. And Venus here favors and flavors love that develops over time, not something that explodes quick and burns out fast. And in marriage, your ideal relationship is going to be built on equality, trust, and having a shared vision for the future of your life. So you want a partner that can be your best friend and someone that supports your goals as well as respects your independence. You need a partner that can grow with you over time. So this is a partnership that may evolve very fluidly, right? Like maybe you start as friends, then you date, maybe you take some space, then you come back together, and then you get married, right? It's not going to be something that follows the traditional pattern or rules. And you're likely open to a relationship that bends the norms, whether that means, parenting style or choosing not to marry at all, or, maybe you just live life on your own terms as a unit in a way that other marriages just don't, right? Maybe you keep your own bank account, something like that. Like you're going to have your own way of doing things. Now, the main lesson with Venus in the 11th house is to watch out for emotional distance or idealism. You may have a vision for the perfect partner or the perfect marriage and think of a partner that can check every box intellectually or socially. But in doing that, you can miss out on the deeper emotional connection within a marriage or a partnership. And if you're too focused on compatibility over intimacy, it can suffer, right? You might fall into a relationship where you're more like roommates or friends than romantic partners with this placement. So the right person for you needs to be someone that isn't just sharing your vision and your ideas, but you're also sharing your heart with each other. So if that resonated or you have any thoughts on that, please drop a comment below and let me know. Okay, Venus in the 12th house. So this is an interesting one. I mean, when you have Venus in the 12th, love often unfolds in more subtle or mysterious ways, even karmic. This is the house of the hidden, the subconscious, of solitude and sacrifice, but also spiritual growth. So Venus here doesn't operate in its usual straightforward public-facing way. Instead, it brings relationships that are felt maybe more than they're able to be explained. You may experience love that is emotionally complex or private or very spiritual, right? Your path to partnership might be filled with quiet longing or just like a feeling that like there's deja vu or like echoes of a past life in some way, right? Like there's going to be some lessons or some themes around surrendering control and trusting with this Venus placement. And you would likely be drawn to partners who are mysterious or even unavailable in some way. That is very common with this placement. but also partners that are deep and emotionally sensitive. Um, and when I say a partner that's unavailable, it doesn't just have to mean they're in a relationship. It could also mean they're emotionally unavailable. And that could be geographically, like in terms of distance, or literally, like they're hidden due to some circumstance, like falling in love with someone who's already involved or someone that you can't fully be with at first. And it's not that you're trying to make life harder, but Venus in the 12th just often attracts love stories that involve some form of compassion or patience or healing. So you might fall for someone who can bring you deep spiritual insight or helps you connect to something greater than yourself, almost like they're part of your soul contract in a way. Now, for as for where you might meet your spouse, I would not expect it to be obvious or loud in any way. You're likely to meet them in some quiet setting, right? Think a hospital or a spiritual retreat or, an artistic or musical event or even a time, of solitude, either for you or them or one of you going through an emotional transition. I don't know why I keep thinking of like the security guard that hooks up with with somebody that's locked up. I don't know why that's in my head. But seriously, there is a potential for secret relationships here, especially early on, or partners who are going to come into your life under very unusual or private circumstances. Now, in marriage, you're going to desire a partner who is able to get you and see into your soul, right? Someone that gets you on a soul level. Like, you're not here just for surface level love, not with Venus in the 12th. You want unconditional love. You need emotional depth. And you need to have the feeling that your partner understands you in a way that words just can't capture. So you might be drawn to creating, a private, almost sacred life together in some way where you have a connection that's deeply personal and even possibly hidden from public view. You may also need quiet time or emotional space in your relationship to process your feelings because they're going to run very deep. But when you're in a healthy dynamic, this placement can bring extraordinary compassion, even intuitive understanding of each other, and spiritual bonding. I would just say the biggest lesson with Venus in the 12th is to learn the difference between soulful love and self-sacrificing love. It's easy to fall into patterns of loving people who can't fully be there for you or giving too much in the name of love or emotional depth with this placement. You're wired for a deep soul level connection, but it doesn't mean that you have to suffer for it. And the best partner for you is going to be someone that honors the emotional sensitivity that you carry and can help you feel safe being vulnerable, but isn't going to take advantage or leverage your generosity in any way. So if you find someone that can bring peace over chaos and loves you just as much in the quiet as they can in the visible world, then you found something. So I hope that was helpful. Please let me know if that resonates. It's a very unique placement. And if it does, drop a comment below. All right. Now we're going to discuss and break down the zodiac sign that Venus falls in. So when you combine the house placement with your sign, then you'll get a fuller, more nuanced picture of your future partner and how that love tends to show up as well as function in your life. Let's start with Venus in Aries. So with Venus in Aries, love doesn't tiptoe, right? It charges in. You're attracted to partners who are bold, direct, and full of life. You want someone who makes a move, keeps things exciting, and doesn't second guess their feelings. In fact, any type of hesitation or emotional overthinking is probably going to bore you. And your ideal partner is someone that has fire in them. This is Aries, so you're going to want someone that goes after what and who they want, and brings a certain raw or unfiltered energy to the relationship. You're likely drawn to people who are confident, passionate, active, and maybe a little impulsive. So, whether they're athletic, entrepreneurial, or just naturally assertive, you're going to want a partner who stands out for their courage and their individuality. You respect strength and independence, and your future spouse may have a bit of a competitive streak or me first edge to them, which, believe it or not, might be part of what turns you on. You're not interested in being overly pampered or pursued endlessly. You want someone who meets you in the moment with real presence. Now, your marriage partner may be someone who moves quickly in love, right? Or who wasn't afraid to initiate your connection. They may be decisive, impatient, or even a little hot-headed at times, but they're also fiercely loyal once they're committed. You'll likely be with someone who needs a little bit of space or thrives on personal freedom and hates to feel boxed in. That said, they bring incredible vitality into your life, and they're going to push you to be bold, to move forward, and to keep your relationship dynamic alive. Now, in marriage, you're going to need a partner who respects your autonomy as well and doesn't try to control or slow you down. You're going to thrive with someone who gives you room to breathe, but also matches your drive and desire. Together, you're likely to live a very fast-paced life full of energy, action, and spontaneity. And sure, there are going to be moments that are heated, but there's also going to be a lot of passion and honesty in the relationship. This isn't a quiet comfort type of love. It's a love that moves and grows through challenge and then thrives on, facing that challenge through mutual courage. The ultimate lesson with Venus and Aries is learning to balance independence with intimacy. It's easy to be drawn, to the chase, the flirtation, and to prioritize freedom over closeness in a relationship. But the best partner for, a Venus and Aries person is someone who can light that fire, yes, but then also stay. Someone who doesn't, have to feel like they have to dim their own light to be with you. So when you're able to find a person that challenges you and excites you and can really stand strong in who they are without stepping on who you are, then that's where you're going to find, the happiest relationship for yourself. Okay, Venus in Taurus. So if you have Venus in Taurus, again, similar to Venus in the second house, you don't want a roller coaster relationship. You want something that you can count on. And love for you is rooted in the physical, the consistent, and something that's just quietly meaningful. You're going to be drawn to people who make you feel secure, not just emotionally, but also physically and materially. So a solid voice, a steady hand, someone that's just a reliable presence, those are the things that's going to make your heart settle. You don't need fireworks. You need to feel, though, that someone is sincere and not going anywhere. And you're likely attracted to people that are loyal, calm, sensual, and just comfortable in their own skin. Your ideal partner might love music, nature, food, art, or anything that involves the senses. They may move slowly in love, but once they're committed, they're incredibly devoted. And you would value physical affection and quality time and the shared routines, because there's something deeply romantic for you in the simple things. Think a home-cooked meal, a slow evening walk, or just sitting in silence together with no pressure. Your future spouse is probably someone who values consistency as well and doesn't play games. They're unlikely to be flashy or overly dramatic in how they show love, but they'll show up day after day in the most dependable ways. This is someone that makes you feel physically cherished and emotionally safe. There may be an earthy energy to them or sensual energy that draws you in, and once you're bonded, that connection is built to last. They may also have a strong appreciation for comfort or routine, or possibly even, shared finances or long term planning of your life together. Now, in marriage, you're going to want a partner who doesn't just talk about love, they demonstrate it. You thrive in a relationship where there's emotional calm, mutual respect, and a physical closeness that feels safe as well as nourishing. Drama is a major turnoff for you. Emotional stability is a must, and it's ultimately what you crave. You want to build a life that feels beautiful and sustainable, where your shared values, habits, and lifestyle just keep reinforcing the bond that the two of you have together. So, from the outside, your ideal marriage can look simple to some people, but on the inside, it would be very rich in themes of loyalty and deep mutual care, as well as a quiet passion. Now, the lesson with Venus and Taurus is to watch for stagnation or any attachment to comfort. It's easy to get so comfortable that growth takes a back seat in the relationship. You might also hold on to relationships longer than you should simply because they feel familiar. The right partner for you is someone that honors your need for stability, but also invites you to evolve. So, when you find that type of person, that is typically when you're gonna say that you found like that version of lasting love that's ideal for you. Okay, Venus in Gemini. So with here, love starts in the mind. For you, attraction is not just about looks or status, it's about conversation, curiosity, and connection through words and ideas. If someone can make you laugh or challenge your thinking or just surprise you with a clever observation, you're hooked. You're drawn to relationships and people that feel light, agile, and open, where nothing feels overly serious or stuck. Love should make life more interesting for you, not weigh it down. And you're likely attracted to people who are witty, youthful, sociable, and just full of ideas. Like whether they're an intellectual or just funny and quirky, it doesn't really matter. And they're likely going to be a great communicator as well. Your ideal partner is someone that's going to keep you mentally engaged. And you might be drawn to someone with a broad range of interests, right? Who just thrives in social settings. It's less about having all the answers and more about being open to exploring life and laughing and learning together. You want a partner who asks great questions and has stories to tell and doesn't need everything to be defined right away. Now, your marriage partner might be someone that you met through a conversation or through education or your everyday environments. Think mutual friends or a class you took or social media, or a local event or a short trip that you took in your local environment. Really any chance counter within your local environment. So Venus in Gemini loves spontaneity. So it's very common for love to strike in the unexpected places because of that. Often you're not looking for it when it happens. One moment you're chatting about some interest that you share, and before you know it, you're emotionally hooked to this person. Now, in marriage, you need freedom, as well as mental stimulation and a sense of play in your everyday life. So if your relationship becomes too heavy or too routine, it can feel suffocating, and that would be a turnoff for you. You're going to be someone that thrives with a partner who respects your need for variety and someone who doesn't expect you to sit still emotionally, but is going to be there to walk beside you as you keep growing and learning in your life. So you may want to try new things together, take classes, take short adventures together. But communication will be a major key. When communication is flowing well, so is the relationship. But ultimately, the lesson with Venus and Gemini is learning to balance that lightness with depth. It's easy to chase novelty and avoid emotional vulnerability if things get too real. It's also easy to mistake, mental stimulation with true intimacy. And the right partner for you is going to feel like your favorite conversationalist, right? A person that keeps things lively, but they also need to be there for the tough talks and the silent moments. So when you find someone that you're able to laugh with and think with, but that can truly see you for the many versions of yourself, then you're going to have found someone that, you can live with and then also evolve with. And that is mentally stimulating. So if that resonated with you, please drop a comment and let me know. Okay, Venus in Cancer. So here, love is all about trust and emotional depth. You're not looking for flashy gestures or surface level charm. You want to feel held, understood, and safe in your relationship. You want to be able to be with someone and trust someone fully and know that they're not going to hurt you. And love for you is sacred. You need a partner that brings stability, not just to your life, but to your inner world. You're going to be somebody that craves warmth, care, and most importantly, loyalty. And you're more likely to marry someone who makes you feel emotionally secure rather than someone that has just, swept you off your feet. You're drawn to people who are nurturing and empathetic, as well as protective and, of course, family orientated. Someone who remembers the little things, who notices your moods without you having to say a word, and who shows affection in subtle but meaningful ways. Your ideal partner might be a bit traditional or even introverted, and they probably value their privacy just as much as you value yours. They might also be drawn to people who have, a soft side beneath a tough exterior, right? It's Cancer. So someone who's emotionally complex, but deeply devoted at the same time once they've let their guard down. As for where you might meet this person, right? Venus in Cancer points to quiet, emotionally charged environments. So that might include a family gathering or a small community event, a shared cultural or heritage setting, or even through a nurturing role like caregiving or a cooking class or a volunteer project. Anything connected to home, to children, or emotional healing is likely. Now, there's also a strong possibility of meeting through your literal home, like you moved into a new neighborhood and met somebody, or you have a roommate situation where you fall in love with the roommate, or the roommate brings people over and you meet this person. It could also be while creating or tending to your living space. So if you're having renovations done, maybe the person that comes in is someone that you strike a bond with. You could also connect during a period of life that you're going through anything involving deep emotions, right? A time when your heart is more open than usual, you would naturally attract this individual in. Now, in marriage, you're going to want a partner that is just as emotionally attuned as you are, that's present and ultimately loyal to the core. You don't just want passion. You want someone who's there when things are not going well, when it's raining, right? When you're overwhelmed, and that's going to be by your side. So you value things like shared tradition, and just the simple comfort of knowing that your partner is just always emotionally available to you. And you might find yourselves building a life around your home and family. Like that would be at the front and center of what you would want to build together. And your spouse could be deeply involved in nurturing that with you. There's, a deep desire here for belonging. And you would want to establish a love with this partner that feels reliable, but also rooted. So unlikely that, you'd be a couple that decided not to have a home or family, things of that sort. Now, the lesson with Venus in Cancer is to guard against emotional withdrawal or overprotection, right? When you get hurt, you tend to retreat, and it can be very hard to let people back in. You may also cling to things that are familiar, even if it no longer nurtures you. But the right partner for you is going to be someone that honors your need for emotional safety while also encouraging you to open up, evolve, and trust, or trust again. That's not uncommon as well. So when you find someone that loves your sensitivity and doesn't make you feel shamed for it, then that's the person that you're going to feel the right connection with to build that home life with. Moving on to Venus in Leo. So with Venus in Leo, love is nothing short of a performance. You want the lead role. You're not interested in quiet or unspoken affection. You want to be loved loudly and unapologetically. You're going to be drawn to romance that just feels really expressive, really joyful, even a bit legendary, right? You're going to want a partner who just chooses you and makes it known that that's where their heart belongs. It's to you and only you. And you're likely attracted to people that are very confident as well as passionate, people who are warm-hearted and very generous with their attention towards you. Your ideal partner is someone who just sees you and is able to uplift you and not be shy in any way about showing their love and affection for you. This is like the ideal public display of affection placement. This person may have a flair for the dramatic as well, so it could show up in how they speak or dress, but more importantly, this is going to be someone that shows up with their heart, which is a good thing, and they're going to make you feel like you're special and cherished and appreciated, which is going to fuel your natural generosity towards them in return. So you're not looking for just surface level charm. You do want to find like real loyalty in this as well. In terms of where you might meet your future spouse, I would think places where people shine or express themselves boldly, right? These Leo traits. So concerts, theaters, festivals, art shows, even parties, or social scenes, anywhere where confidence and charisma are on full display. You might also meet through shared creative projects or events where people gather to celebrate something. Venus in Leo often finds love through environments that involve entertainment and joy, where both people feel seen and lit up. Now, in marriage, you're going to want a relationship that feels alive. You're going to want a partner that's very affectionate and emotionally generous. You crave a partner who's proud to be with you and knows how to keep that spark going in the relationship. Routine or indifference, they're the ultimate turnoffs. You're fueled by big romantic efforts, even small romantic efforts, as long as they're genuine. And you may have a high standard, right? You want to make sure that there's a deep, passionate bond, and that loyalty is mutual. Because for you, loyalty is non-negotiable. If you give someone your heart, you expect them to give you theirs in return, but also you expect them to honor it. And when they do, you're deeply committed and you're incredibly loyal in return. Now, the lesson with Venus and Leo is to watch out for ego battles or too much drama in the relationship, or just a constant need for validation from the other. You love being adored, but lasting love also requires quiet devotion and humility. So the right partner for you is someone who can honor how great you are and your brilliance, but can also hold space for you to be vulnerable. Like, you guys don't always have to be on. So someone that can celebrate your wins outwardly, but also tend to your heart behind the scenes is going to be the perfect combination for you. And someone that just never lets that spark or fire of romance go out, even when the day-to-day life gets busy. So if that's helpful or resonates, please drop a comment below. Okay, Venus in Virgo. So here, love is about the subtle gestures, right? It's not big, bright, loud declarations. You're not going to be someone that's impressed by over-the-top gestures or romance, or even any vague emotional promises. Like, you need substance. You're drawn to what's real, what's functional, and what is meaningful. And nothing wins you over faster than someone who pays attention to the small things. Whether they remember how to take your coffee, or your favorite television show, or notice when you're stressed even before you say a word. The way to your heart is through thoughtfulness and action, based on thoughtfulness. And you're naturally attracted to people who are intelligent, modest, helpful, even detail oriented. Like, your ideal partner is someone that's grounded and responsible, and they're going to show care through what they do, not just what they say. So flashy or erratic gestures or even personalities are probably going to turn you off. You're looking for someone who's calm, competent, and has their life in order. They don't need to be perfect. In fact, you'd probably rather, that they weren't, but they do need to be consistent and willing to put in effort to build something meaningful with you. Now, as for where you might meet your spouse, think practical or service-oriented environments, right? You connect through work or health-related activities like the gym or yoga class or a wellness retreat, even a medical setting. You could connect at a volunteer, event or organization that you both share, or any type of shared daily routine. Now, you could also meet while you're helping someone else, right? Maybe you're organizing a project together in a group, or your bunch of friends are getting together to help somebody move, right? Something logistical. Now, the theme is that you meet while getting something done, not necessarily while seeking romance. Love finds you when you're living life, not when you're actively seeking it. And in marriage, you're going to value practicality. You're going to rely on those shared routines you have together, and ultimately being there for each other in very tangible ways. You're the kind of partner that expresses love through their acts of service. So helping your partner plan a schedule, or making sure they eat well, fixing the little things around the house that maybe they didn't notice or no one else noticed, but you did. Like, you want a spouse that sees all of that and then meets you with the same level of attentiveness. And your ideal relationship is based on real world support and mutual respect. You want to grow together with your partner, not just emotionally, but in how you show up for life together as a team. But the lesson of Venus and Virgo is to avoid overthinking love or getting caught in the trap of perfectionism. It's easy to become hypercritical, not only of yourself, but your partner, especially with this placement. And then you can miss the beauty of all of the good stuff, like all the positivity, all the stuff that's working gets lost in those hypercritical tendencies. But functioning healthily, the best partner for you won't need to be flawless. They'll just be willing to be there for you, to learn from you, to care for you, to meet you equally in those small moments of life that are small, but at the same time, they're powerful and for you likely matter most. So when you find somebody like that, it's typically when love lasts for you. Well, I hope that was helpful. Please drop a comment if that resonated. Okay, Venus in Libra. So Venus in Libra is all about connection, mutual respect, and harmony. You don't just want a partner. You want a true equal. Someone you can sit across from, eye to eye, even heart to heart, and know that you're both showing up with the same level of care. Venus rules Libra, so it's one of the most beneficial placements. It gives you a natural understanding of relationships and a strong desire for balance and peace within them, as well as beauty. You're naturally drawn to people who are charming and gracious, emotionally intelligent, and your future spouse would likely have a calming presence on you, right? They would have a very refined taste and would typically be able to have the ability to see both sides of a situation. Again, it's Libra. So while you value emotional maturity and fair communication, and a relationship that looks and feels well put together, the aesthetic and the harmony is going to be important to you as well. Your partner might be very well dressed, very socially aware, or just someone who carries himself with the sense of poise. You tend to be most attracted to people who make relationships feel easy. And that's not because there's no work involved, but because there's a shared effort that just keeps it flowing and keeps it going. Now, as for where you might meet your marriage partner, think either relational or artistic environments. You can connect through mutual friends or a social event. Think art, like a gallery opening, even a wedding. It's also possible to meet in a setting where mediation is occurring, like counseling or some form of negotiation. And you're also likely to attract people through your own characteristics, your own grace and, charisma. So others are going to notice your ability to connect and may naturally see you out. Venus in Libra often brings love through shared spaces of dialogue or beauty or diplomacy, right? You might not fall into something that's chaotic or impulsive or like this roller coaster romance. You're likely to, fall in love to something that just feels aligned, if that makes sense. And in marriage, you're going to really want to have a sense of equality with your partner. So shared decision making would be very important, as well as a sense of mutual admiration. You both need to be appreciated for how you show up. And you do show up for your partner, but you expect them to show up for you as well, and in return. You're going to thrive a relationship where both people are willing to talk things through if there are issues, and seek compromise. And you're going to want to create a life that feels balanced and fair. Not just in your contributions, but also in the daily responsibilities. You're also likely to enjoy, doing things together that have some form of beauty or aesthetic to them. So think decorating the house together, designing a home, or getting dressed up for a night out, or simply creating a life together that looks as lovely as it feels. But the lesson with Venus and Libra is to be mindful of any people-pleasing or over-idealizing tendencies within the relationship. You may sometimes keep the peace at the expense of your own truth, or avoid conflict because it disrupts the image of love that you hold and that you've established with this person. But you need to learn the lesson that real love needs honesty as much as it needs harmony. And the best partner for you is someone who values your perspective but can meet you in the middle as well, and is willing to work through any uncomfortable moments in the partnership, not just want to sweep them under the rug. So when you find someone who can bring both like harmony and peace as well as passion to their relationship, then you found something that is really going to resonate with you in a partner. So I hope that was helpful. Please drop a comment below if it was. Okay, Venus and Scorpio. This is a fun one. This is where love is not light. It is not fluffy. This is either all in or not at all. You're not here for surface level attraction or casual flings or any type of emotional distance in the relationship. You want and need a bond that goes deeper. You want to feel the other person beneath your skin, metaphorically. Something magnetic, all-consuming, and unforgettable is what you're looking for. And you crave the kind of connection where nothing is hidden between you guys, where there's just raw honesty and deep loyalty, and you can both be yourselves emotionally together. For this placement, trust is everything. And once it's earned, you're deeply committed. But once it's broken, good luck putting that back together. You're going to be drawn to people who are intense, emotionally complex, even mysterious, or a bit edgy, or just very private. And your future spouse is likely someone who exudes depth and intrigue, even if they don't speak much. They can have a very powerful presence, or maybe a life story that transformed or changed them drastically in some way. And you may find yourself attracted to those that have just been through something, like people that have experienced the world and have rebounded, people who've, went through hell and transformed, people that have, are able to like carry strength with a quiet confidence, because you're gonna see through any type of shallow charm, and it's not gonna work on you. You're gonna be attracted mostly to people that are real, open, and vulnerable, and have a little bit of emotional grit to them as well. Like this is a placement for the real ones in some sense. Now, as for where you might meet this partner, it often happens in private or emotionally charged or even transformational settings. So it could include deep conversations in intimate environments, or even healing work, or like some form of shared grief or deep psychological exploration. So you can meet through therapy, or like trauma recovery, or some form of financial or inheritance situations as well. But there's often something fated or karmic about the encounter. And the love may not start off like a new romance. Like it can feel very intense and even overwhelming right from the beginning. And that's Venus in Scorpio. He just barges right in. And in marriage, you want a partner that's going to be fully committed. Loyalty is going to be very, very important to you. It's going to be everything in some ways. You need a partner that's emotionally available and is not afraid to dive into deeper subjects. Because you don't want to just coexist. You have the urge and the need to merge with the partner here. You crave loyalty and fierce devotion. You need a bond that can transcend any label, right? Husband, wife, partner, it doesn't matter. The bond is what matters to you. And trust is everything. Betrayal to you isn't just disappointing, it's devastating on a soul level. And when the trust is respected, you become one of the most loyal, supportive, and emotionally attuned partners possible, right? You're everything that someone could ask for. But if it's not, if the trust is not given, or there is betrayal, that will flip off just as quickly as well. You're someone that's willing to go through hell for the person that you love, and you expect the same in return. Now, the lesson for Venus and Scorpio is to watch out for themes of control or jealousy or emotional self-sabotage. It's very easy to get tangled in fear-based patterns, like testing people, pulling away when things get too real, or just guarding your heart and your emotions so tightly that no one can reach that. Like that's gonna destroy the relationship, maybe even before it begins. Because love does require vulnerability, and the best partner for you is gonna be someone that honors the intensity that you hold without exploiting it. You need someone that's going to welcome who you are and your truth and offer you the emotional safety that you need. So when a partner is able to, meet you in that manner without flinching, then that's the kind of bond that can transform both of you in a very deep way, possibly forever. So if that resonated with you, Venus and Scorpio folks, please leave a comment below and let me know. Okay, Venus and Sagittarius. So with Venus and Sag, love has to feel like an open road, right? It needs to feel like an adventure. You're not going to be drawn to any type of heavily, or emotionally restrictive relationships. You're going to crave a connection that's built on freedom and a shared vision. You want to explore life with someone, you do, but you don't want to get trapped in it. So whether it's through travel or spirituality or an exchange of ideas, you're looking for a partner that can inspire you to keep growing in life, but then also give you the space to do that and also stay true to yourself. And you're going to naturally be attracted to people who are optimistic, open-minded, bold, and maybe a little wild at their heart. Your future spouse may come from a different background or country or belief system, or they could just think very differently than you. And you're going to be a person that admires honesty and enthusiasm and anybody that has a strong personal philosophy or belief system that they hold. And you're going to want a partner that's willing to try new things or willing to expand their worldview. And just have fun and laugh their way through life. If someone is too clingy or too serious or just too conventional, it's not going to work for you. You're probably going to be gone before the second date. That's just not your vibe. As for where you meet your marriage partner, so Venus in Sagittarius often brings love through expansion. And that can mean meeting while traveling or studying abroad or attending a retreat, or engaging in something tied to either spirituality or higher learning, think colleges. Now, you might meet through mutual interests that have a lot to do with culture or philosophy or adventure. Think hiking groups or travel blogs or just some sort of a global cause. But love tends to show up when you're not going after it, right? When you're out chasing joy, having fun, exploring, not looking for anything serious, that's typically when you encounter your partner. And in marriage, you need a partner who respects your independence and your freedom. And they're going to need to share your natural desire for growth in life. You are not someone that can be controlled or boxed in. And you want someone that trusts you and trusts your nature and can walk beside you, not ahead of you or behind you, or someone that's going to question you. And you thrive in a relationship where you can talk about things like big ideas and religion and explore new places, and someone that's going to evolve with you and has a passion for expanding and learning in life. You may be naturally playful and direct in your relationships, very emotionally honest, sometimes to a fault. But your intentions are usually pure, and it's because you want to keep things real and joyful. But the lesson with Venus and Sagittarius is learning to balance your need for freedom and freedom in general with being present. It's very easy to romanticize the next thing, right? The next person, the next chapter. But when you do that, you don't always fully appreciate the relationship that you're in. And you need to avoid emotional intensity or discomfort that comes with the hard conversations. Like you want things to be positive to the point where you may run away when things get too emotionally intense. And that's just not realistic. Like, there are always going to be ups and downs, and life is going to ebb and flow. And for as much as there's going to be fun and freedom and positivity, there are going to be moments that are intense and uncomfortable, and you have to be willing to address those with the same vigor that you do the more fun stuff. But lasting love is going to require you being fully present. And the right partner for you is going to be someone that loves your spirit, can grow with you, and give you the space and freedom to roam without doubting that you're going to come home. So if that was helpful, please drop a comment and let me know. Okay, Venus in Capricorn. So for you, love is not just a feeling. It's a long-term investment of sorts. You don't fall quickly in love, and you are not going to be one that falls for the fluff. What you're drawn to is someone solid, consistent, and capable of showing up for the long haul. For you, romance, is built over time. It's brick by brick through trust, shared goals, and mutual respect, right? Saturn rules Capricorn. So you crave the kind of relationship that has structure, has depth, but ultimately staying power. You don't enter your relationships just to play. You want to build and have something lasting together. And you're likely attracted to people that are mature and grounded and composed, as well as ambitious. Your future spouse might come across as reserved or even serious at first, but you admire them for their focus or their work ethic, or even their ability to lead. You may even be drawn to someone older than you or someone that's more established and has already proven themselves in some way or field. You respect stability and discipline, so you're going to look for that in a partner. You're looking for someone who doesn't just talk about the future, but they've thought it through and have a plan. And as for where you might meet your marriage partner, I would look towards professional settings or any type of goal-oriented environment. So you can meet through work, through business networking, through long-term projects, or just in places that carry structure or hierarchy. Think corporate settings or mentorships. Even relationships that you encounter through long-standing family or community ties is possible. And Venus in Capricorn brings love through mutual respect and shared responsibility. So the romantic spark is not going to be like Venus in Aries. It's going to build slowly, but it's going to be built to last. And in marriage, you're going to want a relationship that's respectful and dependable, something that can endure. You tend to be the kind of partner who shows love through responsibility. You take care of what matters. You take care of the family. You take care of the home. And you expect your partner to do the same. You may not be overly emotional, at least on the surface, but your devotion would run very deep. And you would value consistency over chaos. And you're likely to forcefully, be extremely loyal once you're committed. And you would expect that in return. And you might even bond with your partner over things like shared goals or long-term ambitions. Think like building a life together, buying a home, establishing a legacy, all of those things that you would do with the other. But the lesson with Venus and Capricorn is to soften your armor a bit, show some vulnerability, and let that in. It's easy to equate love with duty or fear with this placement, and be nervous that emotional expression is going to somehow weaken your position within the relationship. So you might be hesitant to open your heart unless you're sure it's 100% worth it. But the right partner for you is going to be someone that honors that depth and that seriousness, while also having the ability to gently remind you that love doesn't always have to be earned. Like when you show up and you find someone that can consistently bring loyalty, patience to the table, while also holding your hand during the softer moments, then that's really the kind of love that's going to be foundational for you in this life. So if that resonated or helped in any way, please let me know. Okay, Venus in Aquarius. So with Venus in Aquarius, love needs room to breathe. You are not interested in the clingy, emotionally sticky type of romance. You want a partner who feels like they're your best friend and almost like a co-conspirator, right? Someone that you can build with, and not just build any life, but a unique life. You're not someone trying to fit into a mold, and you don't think your relationship should have to either. You crave connection with a partner that's based on trust and freedom and ultimately a shared vision for the future. Control, traditional roles, they don't appeal to you the way they do other Venus placements. Your ideal relationship is one that's rooted in authenticity, not an obligation. And you're likely drawn to people who are unconventional and independent, as well as smart and maybe even a little rebellious. Your future spouse might be someone who lives outside of the box, right? Maybe they live off the grid. Maybe they have a non-traditional career or a really offbeat sense of humor, or just they bring radical ideas to the table about how to live. And you would value this open-mindedness and would be deeply attracted to people who are able to think differently. The more mentally stimulating and socially aware that your partner is, the more magnetic they become to you. And any type of predictability, that would just lead to boredom for you. Like, you would get bored really quickly. You want innovation, not only in thought, but in lifestyle and how they show love for you. As for where you might meet your marriage partner, look to places tied to technology or groups or causes, community. You might meet through a shared interest in activism or innovation or technology or sciences, any type of progressive ideas or communities tied to social change. Think online platforms, digital communities, online dating, or just unexpected social settings where like-minded thinkers can gather together. And your relationship may very well start as a friendship or even as a platonic connection that slowly evolves over time. Venus in Aquarius rarely goes the traditional route, not only when it comes to falling in love, but also when it comes to marriage, right? You may not have the big traditional marriage. You may opt for a small ceremony with just close friends, or maybe you go to City Hall, or maybe you decide that, I don't need a marriage license to define our partnership, right? Unconventionality is going to be an earmark of this placement. But in marriage and partnership, you will thrive with a partner that gives you space without disappearing, who respects your individuality, and who is able to walk beside you as a true equal. You don't want to feel owned in a relationship. That's very important. The ideal dynamic for you is one that blends loyalty within the relationship with individual freedom, where you both have room to pursue your own passions while knowing that you're always going to come back to your shared union at the end of the day. And your love language may be rooted in support for one another's ideas or your projects or your future goals together. It's not always emotional in like a soft, mushy way, but it's real, and it's loyal in a way that runs very deep. Now, the lesson for Venus in Aquarius is sometimes you need to let your guard down emotionally. And you do it, you're trying to preserve your autonomy, but if you keep people at arm's length or intellectualize or over intellectualize your feelings so you don't have to sit with any vulnerability, that's not good. True connection requires showing up fully, not just mentally or philosophically, but also emotionally. And the right partner for you is going to be someone who values that need you have for space and that respects your mind, but can also make emotional intimacy feel safe to you and not stifling or burdensome. So if this resonated with you or you have any thoughts, please comment below. Okay, last but not least, Venus in Pisces. So if you have Venus in Pisces, then love is often emotional, even otherworldly, but also spiritual. You don't just want a partner, you want a soulmate. You want someone that you can merge and dissolve into, and will do the same with you. You long for a love that is poetic and safe enough for you to surrender to. This is one of Venus's most romantic placements, and it makes you a deeply compassionate person as well as highly intuitive and wired to connect with your partner in ways that go far beyond just words. Love isn't just a part of life for you, it's the place where your soul breathes and your soul gets to express itself. So you're going to be drawn to people that are creative and soulful, as well as sensitive and emotionally open. It's going to be very important. And your future spouse is likely to be artistic and spiritual and empathetic, or just someone who sees the world through a softer lens. Someone that embodies those Piscean traits. And you're likely magnetized towards people who feel dreamy or emotionally rich, or even feel a little amorphous or hard to define. And sometimes this means you fall for people who are unavailable, or mysterious, or need healing in some way. And that's something to watch. But at its best, you're drawn to those who offer kindness and who are vulnerable and have a deep emotional resonance that few other people can match. Now, as for where you might meet this marriage partner, it's likely to happen in subtle ways or even magical ways, right? You could meet through themes of art, music, healing, think meditation groups or spiritual practices, even volunteer work. Sometimes it's just a passing glance that lingers or a conversation that feels almost faded in a strange way. And you could also meet through situations where compassion is crucial and central, right? Think hospitals, nonprofits, communities in need and work around that, or just emotional support roles. Venus in Pisces doesn't always bring love through logic, but it will arrive through feeling and deep feeling. Now, in marriage, you're going to crave a connection that is gentle and forgiving and very emotionally tuned to you as well as the relationship. You need a partner that lets you be you and lets you be soft and is able to honor like the subtle nuances of your emotions. But you're going to be the type that remembers every moment, every birthday, every anniversary, every historical tender moment. You're going to store that in your head and remind your partner of it, because you show love through empathy and devotion. But it can also manifest sometimes as self-sacrifice. So just make sure that the amount that you're investing in your love partnerships is mutual. You should be fine. Because your ideal relationship includes emotional depth and spiritual growth and sharing a dream together. Just know, you don't need everything to be perfect. You just need it to be emotionally real. And the lesson for Venus and Pisces is to maintain healthy boundaries and keep discernment at the forefront. Your love is just so beautiful. It's so unconditional that it can blur the lines between romance and rescuing somebody. You could fall in the traps of giving too much or giving too soon in a relationship, or falling in love with someone's potential rather than who they truly really are. But, when manifested positively, the right partner for you is going to see you and not just see the love that you give. They're going to see you as a person. And they're going to honor your sensitivity, and they're going to look to protect your heart. And they're going to help, pull you back in when you start to drift too far out to sea. And when you find someone that is able to go deep emotionally with you, but still anchor the relationship in real life, tangible ways, then you know that you're found someone that you're looking for. So please let me know if that resonated. Drop a comment below. Yeah. Okay, well, in closing, keep in mind that these are general themes, right? Exact conjunctions and aspects in your personal birth chart can shift the tone and expression of everything that we talked about, because astrology isn't one size fits all. Your chart can also reveal potential timing or windows for marriage, as well as karmic patterns tied to your partner. The reality is, anyone you form a deep or lasting relationship with is likely to be connected to you karmically, for better, for worse, or in most cases, a mix of both. A personal reading can help bring those deeper dynamics to light, so I wanted to call that out. But ultimately, Venus may be known as the planet of love, but in your chart, it's so much more than that. It shows how you connect with others, the kind of energy you naturally radiate in your relationships, and what you truly value when it comes to love, beauty, and your emotional fulfillment in the world. The house Venus sits in reveals where love tends to play out, And the sign is your romantic style and the kind of partner you experience and are most drawn to. So whether you're exploring patterns in your past relationships or trying to understand what kind of love that you are really wired for, Venus offers a lot of deep insight into the kinds of connections that your soul really craves. And if you're ever curious about how Venus is working in your own personal birth chart or how current transits are activating your love life, I do offer personalized readings. You'll find all the booking details in the description below. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like it, subscribe to the channel, and tap the bell so you never miss another upload. It really helps with the algorithm. So thank you for being here and spending time, within your day with me. And I wish you all, luck and all the beauty that Venus can bring you in your love life. I'll see you in the next video.